Okay, welcome back to the open portion of the meeting. Reporting out from the closed meeting, I'd just like to report that the audit is substantially complete and will be released and disseminated in the next few days. So thank you very much for that. And with that, we'll move to call the open portion, or apologies, we'll move to call the open portion of the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to reconvene the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
You're on number 4.
Okay, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Moved.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, second and all in favor. Oh, before we call the question, any amendments, changes to the agenda?
What was one? Sorry.
Sorry, is there any changes, amendments?
No.
No, okay, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carried. With that, we'll move to public participation, item number 5. Crystal, if you can open it up to the public, if there's any questions.
There are no attendees in the council chamber.
No.
Okay, with that, we'll move on then. Delegations, none. Review.
Attendees online, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry?
There are people online, but we're not sure if there's any questions.
Nobody
or-
online.
No hands.
No hands, no
Okay.
hands.
With that, we'll move right down to reports, and that's item number 10, and we'll move to the staff. Mr. Blackwell, I'll pass it over to you to address the by-election plans and expenses.
Thank you. So before you is a report that sets out the next steps with regard to the requirement for a by-election. The report sets out all of the details around that, including projected costs. The recommendation is that there be a third-party individual to undertake that initiative. And so there's a recommendation before council for your consideration.
Okay. Do we have a motion that council direct staff to procure an external election services provider to administer the by-election to fill the vacancy and the council seat? Do we have a motion?
I'll move that.
Okay, second.
Second.
Any comments, questions?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Abbott.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of quick comments. It's not accurate that historically
Yes.
outsourced this. They only happened last year for the first time. So it was in staff. The budget item was 13,500 last year, 13,200 at the general election. So I don't think we need 15 to 20. I'm going to check the numbers. That actually in this budget package. So it's 15 is probably fine. And then on my comment on this idea of procure, I think, Ross, help me out here. I think this is problematic the way it's worded, in so much as we cannot give you the permission to go appoint a chief elections officer.
Correct.
Only we can do that.
Correct.
So you can't actually procure. What you can do is bring back a recommendation.
Correct.
So can we change the wording to that effect?
Sure.
And if you bring us more than one, just in case.
We'll bring back 3.
Okay. So can we change that to make a friendly amendment in that case? The staff go out and solicit. That's a good word. That was a word I was actually going to use. RFPs for external election services. The rest of it can be as is, and bring back for council approval. Bring back.
Councillor Broughton.
Yeah, just picking up on the same point as Councillor Abbott. There's a quote that is incorrect in the introduction. It says the village has historically contracted election services to an external provider for efficiency, fairness, and to reduce the administrative burden on staff. This has only happened once, and that was for a by-election. But the last by-election that occurred, the previous election was actually conducted by the deputy chief election officer as a result of the chief elected officer disqualifying himself, as I recall, and or resigning from that particular role. So this has only ever happened once previously, and that was for the by-election. So just for accuracy.
I'll just add that given the state of local emergency, I think it's fair that staff go out and solicit an external provider. I would also add, similar to Councillor Abbott, I think the cost will be substantially more. I believe the last time around was probably 30 to 40,000 where the price is given. So I think it's going to creep up.
So,
Sorry, 13, not 30.
so if I could,
30.
1-3.
if I could, don't sweat these details. The cost will be what they cost. You'll know that when the proposals come in. Council can make a decision at that point. My recommendation is if you're satisfied with this resolution, just pass it because you've got a lot of work before.
Question.
All right. All in favor?
So as amended, right?
As amended.
As amended?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
in favour.
opposed? Motion carried.
Very good.
Okay, we'll move to item 10.1.2, proposed zoning bylaw. The recommendation is that council direct staff to draft amendments to the zoning and development bylaw number 520, 2017 to explicitly permit accessory dwellings, units, ADUs in the RS1 zone, ensuring that compliance with the Bill 44 and enhancing housing flexibility within the village of Lions Bay. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, second.
1 second.
Okay, seconded. Comments, Mr. Blackwell, did you have anything to add before we call the question?
I would just say it's just pretty generic. It'll have no measurable impact on anything because of the other provisions that will accompany this. It's just providing for a different expression. So currently a secondary suite's permitted. If somebody will prefer to do it in a detached structure instead of a secondary suite, this will allow that to occur coupled with other regulations to ensure that associated impacts are limited. So it should be benign.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Blackwell or any comments?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, Councillor.
First of all, our zoning bylaw already allows for cottages. We have this covered. All we would need to do, if you really want to be pedantic, is putting one statement that says ADUs are considered cottages. And then we could go back to the province and tell Ravi that we're 8 years ahead of the curve because we did this in 2017. We already have it. I don't think there's any change required other than that one state. Even if we had to do that, I don't think we have to make any change at all, to be honest.
My
Hey,
recommendation.
Mr. Blackwell.
Thank you. To council, my recommendation to you as a registered professional planner is please give me this direction so I can make sure that the zoning bylaw is consistent.
Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor?
I'm sorry, just a quick question.
Okay, Councillor Broughton.
There has been a lack of, the provincial advisor suggested that our bylaws required substantial work. And so I think this is probably a good start. And I think that it was probably going to be a lot of bylaws that need, sort of tweaking or major overhaul. But as I recall in the report and prior to his final report, it was identified that our building bylaws and so on are very, very out of date, and that extensive work is required. So I think this will be a good start. So I support this motion.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, one last comment before we call the question.
Okay, one last comment. 2017, this addition of secondary suites and cottages happened. There was a lot of public engagement. There was many people came and spoke to the council at the time, and the mayor of the time is in here. I was one of those. There was a lot of thought put into what a cottage looked like, setbacks, heights. There's a question of a carriage house here. Currently reads 7.5 to 9 meters, depending on the roof style. All of this was considered, and with there was a lot of consideration, and it was all considered with public engagement. I would be hesitant to go change anything now, other than a cottage is an ADU, without going through that process again. That's my advice. We should not be changing anything else. There was a lot of, it wasn't just some generic zoning thing was done, there was a lot of input over the years.
Okay. Mr. Blackwell, just before you comment, I think you've mentioned that you feel that this is a change that will be positive and clarify things. So I will be voting for this. Mr. Blackwell, one final comment before we call the question.
Thank you. Just for clarification, council's not being asked to consider any changes. This is just simply confirming the direction to do that review and bring back the information for council. Council can deliberate on that basis. So that will come at some point in the future.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Councillor Cunliffe, was that for or against?
Against.
Sorry, council, you have to comply with Bill 44. This is not an option.
We have.
You have not. I'm telling you, you have to comply. You are not. This will allow this to comply with the legislation.
Hey, Councillor Cunliffe, for or against?
What part of Bill 44 do we not comply with?
There's no reference to ADUs in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, Bill 44 says secondary suites or ADUs. We have both. Even without a cottage, we've covered. So we doubly covered.
So as your professional planner, I will give you this advice. If you don't want to listen to it, I've done all I can do.
Okay. Councillor Cunliffe, are you for or against?
The comment that we sat here with our MLA discussing this, and there was considerations of where we need to go as a community, and where we're being painted with the same brush that New Westminster and Burnaby is, and it is not appropriate. So complying with something that is not appropriate with our community, it seems like we need to revisit this in a different way, and that would be going to the ministry and asking to be taken out of this conversation, to be given a pass like other communities.
There's no other
Okay.
communities.
All right, the question has been called, the motion is defeated. So we'll move to the next item. 10.1.3, Lower Mainland Local Government Association. Mr. Blackwell, you have some comments and you've written up a recommendation. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Simply that the report is before you for your consideration. The draft resolution for your consideration was discussed previously, so this is due tomorrow. It has to go in tomorrow. There's a second component which is to do with an executive, the LGA executive. If anyone wants to be council member wants to nominate a council member, if not, so be it. That's the report before you.
Okay, any comments on the report, Councillor Broughton?
We move ahead with that, the CAO be asked to move this motion forward, consistent with our previous discussions.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any comments, questions?
Question?
No, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, next item is 10.1.4, the budget for the second reading. And Mr. Cherkoff, I can, well, why don't we make a motion that the budget be read and received as presented? Do we have a motion for that?
Received, so moved. Received as presented.
Okay. Second,
I'll second.
all right. Any questions, comments?
Comments. Sorry, we're under Public Works. We seem to have moved the $140,000 dangerous tree removal line item and amalgamated it into a general maintenance fund, and I would still like to see that removed, separated, and brought to council on a case-by-case basis if there is actually a situation that needs to be assessed, and not write $140,000 blank check to be used at the discretion of Public Works. I think it's important enough that it comes to council for discussion if we're looking at spending that kind of money. If historically we're looking at tree removal as $1,000 as a tree, we're looking at removing either 140 trees without any sort of discussion, or we're looking at spending an extraordinary amount of money on removing very few trees, and it seems incongruent with the best way to spend taxpayer dollars.
Okay, any further comments?
The,
If I may approach this,
Mr. Burr is asked to approach.
so I want to be.
Okay.
This is not a discretionary fund, this is for 4 trees.
That's not what this reflects in the budget.
Okay, well, I don't know what
And
the
that
budget
needs-
reflects because it doesn't print out here, so,
$140,000.
so the $140,000 is needed this year for 4 trees.
So this needs
That
to
have been
come,
deemed to be dangerous.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep. Arborist opinions. One is threatening, our waterman crossing. And 3 have been deemed dangerous and need to come out. The quote for that, those 3 are 110,000. And the other one is gonna have to be dropped very carefully. And that's the reality of danger trees in Lions Bay, and there's gonna be more. There are 4 down at the Centennial Trail since the windstorm that we just found today. The whole new paradigm that we're gonna have to approach, how do we close the trails that trees don't fall on people? Because it will be our fault. So I will re-emphasize, this is not a slush fund for trees. This is 4 known trees. That's what they're gonna cost. Quotes.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, you had your hand up?
I agree with Councillor Cunliffe. I think we need to deal with this on a case-by-case basis. Now that I know it's 3 known trees, I think I know what those 3 are. I will remind everyone once again, the moderate risk of the arborist saw is the risk of a branch fall. I agree with Councillor Cunliffe. If we want to spend this kind of money on removing trees, then there needs to be a case-by-case decision on it.
Well,
If there's a dead tree that's about to fall over some of our infrastructure, that's a no-brainer. It's different. It's a different case when we're talking about. We've been told not to discuss this any further.
Just keep it really sort of.
I'm just saying, if we're talking about residents that are complaining about trees, and we're talking about a tree that can then can fall in someone's house and kill someone, it's a dangerous tree. When an arborist says there's a risk of a branch falling off in the storm, don't walk out in the storm. I have a concern if staff have already decided that 3 particular trees for $110,000 meet that criteria, then I think the judgment is wrong.
Okay, any further comments?
So I think, and my comment is, this is a budget request. So every one of these line items is a staff request. And I think you've heard 2 people say no to this particular one. So I think it should be removed. Well, the whole budget's not going to get approved.
Sorry, Mr. Blackwell, can you give us further explanation on what this is about?
You'd have to go into closed.
Okay. All right, perhaps we should move into closed then. Motion to move into closed?
So moved.
Okay, a second? All right, I'll second that. All in favor of moving into closed to have further discussion?
We've already discussed this in closed and we had a resolution.
Sorry, the question's on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Closed.
Okay, motion defeated.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move to the next item.
Could I clarify that these trees were deemed to be dangerous trees? Or removing, okay.
Yeah, just a cautionary note. Please be very careful what you are discussing because
Okay,
this is a matter that is.
Trying not to discuss it.
Okay, any further questions on the budget?
So before, if I could, before you is a motion to grant the budget second reading. Wasn't actually quoted correctly, but this is for second reading.
Okay, any further questions before we call the question?
I have quite a few.
Okay, Councillor Abbott, floor is yours.
Just going to start at the top. second. On page 27, this is a question I've asked several times and haven't received an answer to. Even though we've got a report here about the parking in the other meeting, a report from bylaw enforcement. What I still don't understand and give the answer to is the parking fines. Well, the parking tickets have gone up. The parking fines have gone down by 50 or more than 50% of what was budgeted last year, and they are half of what we're budgeting for this year. And I'd really like to understand, is that because of a backlog of recovering fines that are unpaid, or we just written less fines? Well, I know we've written as many tickets because we worked much money in, and I've asked the question several times.
Okay, Mr. Cherkoff, you have an
Through the
answer
chair,
for that?
I've spoken with our bylaw officer, so he's working with our parking provider broker regarding collection issues on outstanding tickets. He's issued more tickets than previously, but we're not collecting on them. We do use an outside service provider for that, and he is trying to expedite the process. However, it's taking some work with our third-party service provider. We don't record these parking fines as revenue until we collect because of the uncertainty of collection.
The process of the way I used to, sorry, I just can't. So the process of the way I used to understand, well, the process of the way I used to operate, because I did understand it, was staff always took the first attempt at resolving the fine or having it, or if they could get to a deadlock, then they passed it to collections. Is that still the circumstance, or we now got someone doing all of it?
That would all be within Taj's purview, working with broker, and there's another party that does our collections process on behalf of us. It really, all it amounts to is we record everything that we get paid, receiving in cash in one account by ticket number, and that's what we've collected. That's it.
Just
Okay,
Point of
Councillor Abbott, we've got about 19 minutes remaining in the meeting. Any other questions?
Yeah, I said I had a few. I'll try to go as fast as I can. If we're trying to get a second reading,
Okay, we've talked about this before. It might be a little easier if we take it offline and ask some of the questions directly to Mr. Cherkoff and get those answers prior to the meeting.
I've been doing that by email, and you guys have been copied. I didn't get a chance this weekend. I'm only looking at things that are slightly different. My next question is on page 29, professional fees. Once again, we've got the budget considerably less than the actual from 2024. Last year we cut it because we believe we could do better. Turns out we couldn't. Do we believe that's a realistic amount?
There was a request within our past iterations of the budget to reduce legal fees in particular. There's also an anomaly with the bleed over effect of video audit fees coming into 2023 and 2024. So what's in here is based on pretty much what we would be on a normal basis being charged primarily for legal fees from Lidstone, outside of anything new that I'm unaware of. If there is something that I'm unaware of that potentially would be increasing our costs regarding litigation, that certainly would be adjusted up. However, what you're seeing for the 2024 to dates are as a result of existing conditions that council is aware of, and the expectation is that they would not recur in 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that there's contract minute taking. I believe that's going to be significant less next year. Because we have a trained minute taker at this point.
Yeah, I don't think that's the big swing there.
It's significant, but it's not the biggest swing you're right. Actuarial services, appraisals, legal clearly. Yeah. Audit looks like it's going to be in line. Legal will be there.
And then my other one, some of these numbers have been updated recently, so I apologize for this not coming up before. General fund parks, the actual $126,500 last year. Budget last year was half of that, exactly half of that, 63. And the budget for 2025 is once again half of that. Do we have was there a one-off reason it's listed as porta potties, log removal and facilities maintenance? Why would,
Can I just have a look there?
why would we have
Where are we? What
60,000,
page?
page 33, $60,000
33.
swing in last year's actual?
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay.
The budget was 63, which we overspent by 100, by 60, let's say, around
Yeah.
numbers. I don't know what that 60 was.
Because if it is a general maintenance thing, we're going to repeat, why did we go back down to 60?
Yeah, exactly. So let's hope it's not. There was no particular log removal requirement. We did put up a fence at the beach park. That was only $11,000. There was 3 loads of sand rather than the normal 2. I think that was about 30. So now we're up to 40 something. I think it's going to be extraordinary maintenance to explain the 60,000 overage.
And if you may consider, so this is a condensed version, so we can focus attention on specific departments for your second reading. The previous versions of the budget do include in the detailed notes specific breakdowns of weakness by vendor. You're welcome to take a look back at your previous packages to see, gain a better understanding what's in that.
Okay. And then my last one, and the big number, the big sort of taking it up to a high level, and why I'm not comfortable with this being a second reading is if best explained on page 45. And yes, we have a balance ending in 2024 of $7 million. And we are going to draw $6.7 million from reserves, which is a reduction, sorry, which is an overall reduction from, so the 2 balance endings of $3.5 million. Page 29, we show that as $2.1 million, which is the high level withdrawal from reserves. I'm uncomfortable with that much of a reduction in our reserves in 1 year. We spoke about loans, we spoke about other things, but sounds like a 5-year plan to disaster. Yeah.
So for the $7 million, that includes, like we talked about, so portion of that is the 3.94 million dollars for municipal water metering. So that comes in above the line and then it hits reserves, and then we take it out in capital expenditures. So like half of that is grant specific. So that's part of it. And then as far as the loans, if you take a look at the page 46 about the action log here, Mr. Blackwell was kind of sharing some advice as to how to try and focus our attention and definitively track how we're making decisions. So one item here is the access temporary loan financing to fund capital expenditures, 1.8 million. I've taken a look at current financing rates, and we would, if I, instead of spending it from our cash reserves and put it into an investment, we would be earning 3.9% in interest revenue on that 1.8 million. And then when we borrow it, we'd be paying interest at 4.1%. 4.3%. This has got a 1% spread between what we're earning and what we're paying in interest and current rates through the MFA. And that way, when we've got the access to cash as needed. Of course, I would reflect that as an inflow from loan proceeds and payments in our budget. But that is kind of our interest income and interest expense, and we access temporary financing.
But can we reflect that in the budget before we do a second reading? I mean, this budget says we're going to withdraw from reserves, and our reserves are going to go down to $3 million. I'm not comfortable with that.
This is moving it, if I may, this is moving the budget process forward. Third, committee, and I think the calendar changed. Third reading, you will be inflected there. I just want to make sure I can tick the box, have everybody's explicit approval that yes, we will access our remaining temporary financing, and then I'll put it in the budget. Cross that as got actionless item as approved, and then move forward.
When we get to third reading, we're running out of runway. Then we start having to reverse readings. So at second reading, we really need to have something that we're all comfortable with. Between
If we did the CUB.3, the $1.3 million fully self-funded water main project as debt for 1.3. The reason why that is particularly good debt candidate is that future taxpayers pay for it over the course of its lifetime as they use it. Whereas current taxpayers whose reserves these are should get instant gratification, but not a 20-year pipeline. So CUB.3, $1.3 million would be an ideal candidate for that if council was amenable to.
That was the suggestion.
Yeah, I think Joe needs a formal nod on that one.
Before we had a formal nod last time.
There was, if I may, you had some questions regarding number one, the interest reset that we had on that long-term loan, and then questioning about the rates when we get. I spoke to it, but whether there was a general consensus that we're going to move forward with that, I wanted to make sure that I had the numbers in front of you and that it was explicit that yes, we're going to move forward with that option, and then I can update it for that.
So can we see a budget of that major update before we go to a third reading?
I can turn that around for you tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll go a second reading on
to see that the effect of that change. That is not difficult for me to do.
So with any of these items, if I could, through the chair. Thank you. For any of these items that Joe is seeking direction on, you don't have to provide a formal resolution necessarily. It can just simply be a consensus-based direction. So long as there's consensus, Joe can mark that down as direction. Of course, it's not a decision. Council reserves the right to make a decision later, but at least provide some direction on any of these items he's seeking direction on.
And then my other thought that I don't know that we had clear direction, but maybe other councillors can tell me wrong. I certainly haven't bought off on it. Is the two new vehicles, the new backhoe, as well as the new Jaws of Life. All four of those items are in the budget. And they add up to 90, 140, $170,000. Was it the opinion of everyone else in council? We wanted all of those?
I have not.
Councillor Broughton.
Yeah, it's something I definitely would like to consider further. Yeah, I think moving forward, the second reading is fine as long as we can make adaptations beyond, but
We've got one more chance, that's the point.
yeah.
If you're not dialed in now, then you need a third reading, you're reversing the second reading, rescinding things, and it becomes messy.
Okay.
I
I think we need to get moving though. I do think we need to move forward somewhere. So, I would be comfortable going forward with those understandings, and there's some matters later in the meeting that I think may have some bearing on some of these matters, but I think, yeah, we will have to do some adjustments, but I think we can do that. But rather than not do anything on the basis of we might have to change it, I don't think that's the best approach.
Okay, any further comments?
If I may,
CAO.
Yeah, Mr. Blackwell?
just a reminder to council, should you have a question about the jaws of life, the fire chief will be here a little later this evening, and you can feel free to ask any sort of questions around rationale and whatever else you wish to know about.
All right, any further questions? No, okay, I'll call the question on the second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, motion defeated. Okay, we'll move to the next item, and we'll call on Corey Vanderhorst of MNP.
No. Joe will be doing that.
Oh, Joe, sorry. All right, Joe, we'll go to you to relay Corey's information.
So it's included as a draft of the auditor's unqualified opinion on the 2023 audit. They are substantially complete the procedures and are ready to issue their audit report pending some customary sign-offs at the end. The report is again unqualified, so there are no reservations, scope limitations, or anything. They're happy with the procedures and the outcome of the procedures.
Okay, thank you for that.
Need a motion or
Motion to receive.
No,
Thank
it's just, if I could. it's
For
just
information.
Information only.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll move to next item, 10.1.6, Department Year-End Report. Mr. Blackwell, over to you.
Here, this is just a summary of some of the highlights for the municipal staff. Just for information, this is gonna be sort of this is the pre-work for the annual report. But rather than wait for that, we thought that we'd get this out to council just to give you a snapshot of what 2024 looks like.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Blackwell?
Oh, it's just like a draft or it's just for information?
For information.
Okay, okay.
Okay, next item, no resolutions on table, no bylaws, correspondence, Mr. Councilor Broughton.
I did have my hand up on the previous question. I mean, do
Yeah.
you want some feedback on this now? I mean, I have,
Yeah,
Just for information. Yeah, this is gonna be incorporated into, adjusted and massaged into an annual report. So it's just to give you a very general snapshot.
Okay, folks, we've got 4 minutes remaining and
I'll just add a couple of general questions then. Okay, so this is just a draft. There are a few things in there. Cole's numbers hadn't been updated, not as under budget as you thought, but anyway, close to. So that'll all get caught up. The annual report also traditionally had small write-ups input from other community groups, as well as search and rescue services, fire, community groups, committees, etc. Are you looking for input from those people as well?
This is not the annual report, to be clear. This is just a summary review, just to give council a snapshot of some of the highlights of what occurred in 2024. When it comes to writing the annual report, which will be soon, we'll follow the same sort of format that was used in previous years.
all right. Councilor Broughton, was there any correspondence?
no, not
Nope.
for a special council meeting.
Okay, all right. We're gonna open it up to public questions. Any public questions, please raise your hands. Or hand. Nothing, okay, a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Okay, so before we do that, we've got residents on the line, so we're gonna open the committee of the whole meeting next, and residents have to re-sign in, or?
Yeah,
And
please, sorry, through chair. Please move over to the committee of the whole link. Once
Okay,
we're-
all right, so it's a new link for everyone online. It's a new link for the committee of the whole. So with that, motion to adjourn the meeting,
so moved.
second, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, motion carried. Okay, thank you very much. We'll see you on the committee of the whole.
Any more comments?